The state primary here in Massachusetts will be held on September 3rd. The voter registration deadline for that is August 24th. Inflation has caused grocery prices to go up by almost 10%, and the Fruit Fair grocery store in Chicopee is trying to stay competitive. Ingram asked people who may be shoveling their cars or driveways to be mindful of the road conditions and take their time during the cleanup process to avoid potential injuries. Developers say the building is about 28% complete and should be finished by fall of 2026. In a corn maze, it's possible for people to get lost. If that happens, don't panic. The Apple Place will send a rescue team every Thursday morning. Green Hill Neighborhood Association member Winifred Octave said it's especially important to have young people play an active role in the healing process as well. We are live at the Portuguese Club in Chicopee with Chicopee Mayor John View. After just winning re-election, he will now be mayor for a third term. 71-year-old former Springfield resident Timothy Jolie will be facing charges for alleged murder of 18-year-old Teresa Marcoux and 20-year-old Mark Harnish back in November of 1978. Jolie was arrested late last month in Clearwater, Florida, after an individual came forward with his name as a suspect to the Hampden District Attorney's Office. Local and state police were then able to discover matching fingerprints and issue a 2-count murder complaint and arrest warrant shortly after.
Over the years, there were many individuals who were looked into, were suspects or persons of interest. But having a name, and through the industrious and skilled work of the investigators on our team, we were able to take that name and turn it into something very, very significant.
Marcoux and Harnish had both attended East Longmeadow High School and held jobs in Hampden County. On November 19, 1978, the two individuals' bodies were found dead near Route 5 in West Springfield. Police say they found a pickup truck next to the bodies with damaged windows and blood in and around the vehicle.
Both were last seen alive on the morning of November 17th at approximately 12:30. They were leaving a party hosted by friends. The pickup truck was determined to be owned by Mark Harnish.
Police were able to identify Jolie from what was once an unknown fingerprint from the passenger side of the vehicle and saw it matched up with the fingerprinted sample local law enforcement had of Jolie from an application he had submitted for a taxi cab license. Police concluded the two of them were victims of multiple gunshot wounds sustained while inside the vehicle before having their bodies taken out and then moved to where their remains were later found.
It's not only gratifying for me and for our team, but for so many people who really cared about the victims and who wanted to bring some answers and some justice for their families over the years. And it provides hope for all of us who continue to do this work, because there's a lot of other unresolved cases.
Police say, unfortunately, the parents of both Marcoux and Harnish have passed away, but they have been in contact with their extended family members. Hampden District Attorney Anthony Gallooni reminds the community that the DA's office does not forget families or victims of unsolved homicide cases and urges everyone who may have any evidence in any ongoing investigation to reach out to local authorities. In West Springfield, Richard Damas, Spectrum News. It's been a difficult summer for Margaret Larson and the dozens of artists at Cottage Street Studios in Easthampton, many of whom are in the process of moving their businesses. Since 1976, One Cottage Street Studios, a mill building owned by Riverside Industries, has served as a workspace for more than 80 artists. In April, Larson says she and other tenants were told by management that their rent would be increasing drastically later this year in order to keep up with maintenance costs.
All of our rent would be going to $15 a square foot. For those of us who've been around a long time, who have very large spaces, that represents 100% increase. For one tenant, that's a 200% increase. It's really undoable for most of us.
This was such a gift to be here, and now it's all being stripped away. I feel very sad. It's been like grieving a loss of my business space and looking for a new one. I walk here from my home. I'm very lucky.
Larson has been renting at the studio for nearly 20 years as co-owner of Cottage Street Woodworking and Cottage Street Golf. Zaxware owner Andrea Zax has been renting for close to a decade, making custom wedding gowns along with other alterations. They were told a decision on whether they would sign a new lease or leave would have to be made by September 1st. Both have decided to move, but the process has been challenging, from having to stop work to moving costs.
Maybe that's $10,000 total. That's money I would much rather have given to Riverside as part of our regular rent, because we were willing to take a raise in our rent, of course, but not 100%.
We're just tenants. They have no respect for what we do. what we contribute to the community. I moved here from Belchertown because I wanted to be part of the artist community. And I got this studio and my house.
We reached out to Riverside Industries for comment, but they declined to speak on the matter. Larson says she has found a new location in Easthampton and will be moving into the space along with a few other artists at One Cottage Street Studios. She said it's bittersweet. Knowing a move will also mean a loss of community.
We've also become very, very good friends with people in the building. We consider them family. We've worked with them, we've played with them, we've put on open studios with them. So there is this very real sense of loss of this community.
In Easthampton, Richard Damas, Spectrum News. Sheila Kuhn spent Thursday morning preparing lemon cookies inside her bakery in Chicopee. It's been a long road for the once single mom of 7 children who not too long ago was living in a homeless shelter after a divorce.
Let's just say dependent on him, and he didn't come through, and I lost everything I had, and that's how I ended up in that shelter. Like, I had a job, listen, I had everything, and I remember driving to the welfare office with everything in my car, and my daughters were at school, and it was the hardest thing for me.
Hoping to start over, Kuhn tried to open up her own cookie business but was denied for not having enough funds. Then in what Kuhn calls the broke plan, she was slowly able to bounce back from completing her GED to attending culinary school through community college. While in school, Kuhn, along with her daughters, would bake cookies religiously, learning new ways to improve their craft to one day operate their own business.
Over the years, my kids and I had come up with 1,000 flavors of cookies, just as a thing, right? While I was in culinary school, it turned into a project over the years.
Kuhn and her daughters delivered cookies door to door before opening up a food cart in the mid-2010s. In 2018, she opened her first hot oven cookies location in Springfield, and last December opened their second store in downtown Chicopee. Both locations are managed by her daughters.
Our mission is to share the cookie love. And if you look at the faces of my daughters, right, they're understanding our mission as being a love letter to humanity. For me, that I was able to execute on my promise to my children and not have to fall flat on it.
For Kuhn, being homeless was one of the most difficult periods of her life. She says it gave her perspective and now hopes to empower those in similar situations the ability to operate and run their own businesses.
To the average person with a heart for women of color and people of color, not because we feel they're unable, but because there are so many roadblocks, right, to opening up your own business.
In Chicopee, Richard Damas, Spectrum News.